Alright, so in this video, we're going to talk about the new Lowrider S ST FXRT fairing edition. Let's check it out. What's going on YouTube? FX Deals Brooklyn is back in the building. Coming at you live from some chilly FXR miles out here in Queens, New York City. Let's do our temperature check. And there you have it, 27 degrees out here in New York City. It is cold. It is our winter miles that we love, because you know how we do it. If we are not rolling the bike, we're generally not rolling the cameras. So let's get moving. Alright, so 2022 Lowrider S ST. Wow, am I excited to talk to you about this one. And I made a previous video about a month ago just about people asking my opinion about it, coming from an FXRT build on my Dyna Lowrider S. People asking me my thoughts about the new ST edition that they just dropped as of today. And look, we're seeing a lot of different perspectives on this, a lot of different takes on this, some positive, some negative. But what I will tell you is, in terms of Harley Davidson releasing that bike, my perspective and my reaction is almost 100% positive. I think that is just another bike and another idea that they've kind of 100% knocked out of the park. And honestly, for a rider such as myself that runs that particular build, which is 100% a performance touring build, that's kind of been my riding philosophy for a really long time, which is pushing a bike that's not a bagger to tour while still maintaining high performance functionality. It's really cool to see that riding style be validated from Harley Davidson itself, you know, because it's not just me out there crushing miles on that type of build, on a Dyna, on something that's not a bagger, but there's a lot of riders out there in the last couple years who kind of get that philosophy and are going fast and are going far on Dynas and FXRs and all sorts of unconventional means of, you know, putting in that type of miles. But look, in terms of my bread and butter, you know, that's what it is. It's Dynas, it's FXRs, it's being able to set your bike up to properly go far and still maintain a high performance. And what Harley Davidson just dropped with the Lowrider S ST, I think 100% does that. So look, here's what I like about it, which is I think where people are kind of caught in the middle. Some people hate the way that they redesigned the FXRT fairing. Some people like it. I really like the fact that they chose to design something that was new. I kind of think if they just threw on an old FXRT fairing and retrofitted it like what I have on my Dyna, I just think that there'd be something less special. And I also just kind of like the fact that there is a differentiation between an FXRT build like I have on my Dyna or on a Lowrider S and what they just came out with, something that's coming out of the factory with that fairing. I like the fact that there's a clear differentiation aesthetically between those two things. And honestly, you know, regardless of there being a clear differentiation, I like the look of it. It's nice to see something that looks different. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad look aesthetically. I think people are going to set that up to look really cool. I think it looks really cool out the box. So a lot of people are out there talking a lot of trash about how that fairing looks, but honestly, I really don't mind the look at all. I kind of think they knocked it out of the park and they designed something different than what was, all at the same time probably making some adjustments performance-wise to make it more aerodynamic, to make it lighter, and at the end of the day, to make it fit the bike better. Because look, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that my aftermarket FXRT fairing is fitting my Dyna perfectly. There were a lot of modifications that had to be made to get that fairing to sit properly on that bike. Because let's be real, they never designed that fairing to be on my Dyna. So there's something special to be said about the factory designing an RT fairing specifically tailored for the Lowrider S, that it is meant to be fitted on. So you can't have a better fit than that. That fit and that fairing is always going to sit better on those bikes that are coming out of the factory than it's going to fit on my Lowrider S with an aftermarket RT fairing. You can't argue that, you know? So, honestly, I absolutely love it because it now, again, validates a whole riding style that I've been a huge proponent of within my content. You all know my content. I'm pushing the Dynas to go as far as they can. I'm doing the road trips, and I'm doing it on a Dyna. And that particular build has allowed me to do it in the highest performance, most functional possible way without having to sacrifice changing up my riding style, which would be hopping off a Dyna or an FXR. So again, I just love the fact that the factory is offering something that is out of the box with that particular riding style in mind, because that's what my generation seemingly wants right now. You first saw it on the West Coast, you first saw those builds, then you saw the builds start popping up on the East Coast and everywhere else, and now you're seeing them, you know. They said it in the drop video, they said a trend, and yeah, it's definitely a trend. You're seeing the RT builds, and why are you seeing them? Because of purpose and functionality, you know. If you're really putting in the miles and you're really trying to go fast, and really not just go fast but sustain going fast, that's what you want to run on your bike. So it's just nice, again, to have the factory, you know, invest some money, invest some research, just invest energy into that particular idea on riding, that you don't have to be on a bagger to go far, that you can have these performance builds with this RT fairing, you know. As for the bike itself, you know, if we're talking about the price tag, we're talking $21K to have that bike out the box. Honestly, man, to think about what you'd have to spend for an aftermarket RT fairing with getting it fit on, the brackets, the fairing itself, paint, everything, I actually kind of think that price for a brand new Lowrider S with an RT setup, I happen to think it's a fair price. They've just opened up the door for a completely different riding style that wants to have a bike set up to do that type of riding out the box. And again, who's gonna argue with that, man? I know there's a lot of traditionalists out there that are just like, yep, the RT fairing should not look like that. But honestly, man, coming from somebody who was, you know, in the market for a new bike back in 2016, you know, a pretty long time ago at this point, I don't know if that was something that was being offered back then with the type of riding that I do, I may have just pulled the trigger on that, you know. But they didn't have anything offered like that. I think the closest thing was a switchback, which is kind of like one of the forgotten Dynas, you know. You don't really see switchbacks that often. I love the fact that it's come in stock with those hard bags. Shout out to this guy, Outride Winter. The hard bags were a great choice. They make them detachable. I like the fact that they raised the suspension to really drive the point home that this is a performance-built bike, you know. They're encouraging you to tour on that thing, but they're also encouraging you to throw that thing around in the twisties. I love the fact that you got a 117 engine in that thing, so you're running a beast high-performance engine. And obviously, I love the same things that I like about the Lowrider S, which would be a separate video. That, you know, I like the paint scheme, I like the emblem that they're running with. I think this particular bike is, again, grand slam. They knocked it out of the park. If you're in the market for a new bike and you're someone that wants to do the bike trips and you want to ride far and you want to ride fast and you don't want to sacrifice functionality, you don't want to sacrifice performance, by all means, enjoy. This is your new bike. This is a gift. Because, yeah, man, I don't think I've been this excited for a new release from the factory for probably since they released the Dyna Lowrider S. That's probably the last time, you know? I've said this before, I'm on a really old bike right now. I'm on a 1988 FXR, and I'm talking about a really new bike, and yeah, I'm excited for what's coming out there, man. I cannot wait to get a test ride in on that bike. I said this about the new Lowrider S as well. I think it was a good move that they decided to move the gauges up like I have on this bike so you can see them. The only thing I would change on that bike is I would go back to a dual gauge setup, you know, just to maintain that classic aesthetic. I also just prefer to have the 2 dual gauges visually. That's just my 2 cents. That's just my personal preference, you know. And I mean, you know, the normal other things. I think that the last thing, if we really wanted to say that they really not sent this one home, I would argue that they should have put T-bars on this thing, or they should have put a higher riser, because you know that probably 80% of the people that buy that bike are going to rise the bars into some sort of T-bar setup or something. So it's like they were already in touch enough with their rider base to know that the rider base wanted a old FXRT type build with a modern performance. So I feel like the next step is like being in touch with their rider base enough to know that we don't want bars that are, you know, on 4-inch risers. Give the people what they want, you know? But that's neither here nor there. Or is it? But yeah, I'm really excited for it, and I'm not somebody that's in the market for a new bike or anything. You know, if you are in the market for a new bike, like I said, I do think it's 100% Grand Slam. You know, they really did their homework on this one. I like the fact that they used an actual FXRT, an FXR with an RT fairing on it, as their frame of reference when they designed this. And again, I really like the fact that they were intentional about making it look different and making it look unique to that particular bike. Good job, Harley-Davidson. Good job. You get FXTLS Brooklyn's stamp of approval on this one. We are definitely excited, and we are definitely excited for the new rider base that this bike is going to draw in. And I don't know, I'm excited to see what people do with these things, man. It's like they're already putting in your hands a bike that's almost 100% set up, you know, for that particular build. You got the hard bags, you got the fairing. You really only need to hit the bars and the exhaust to make that thing do what you need it to do. So what a gift if you are in the market for a new bike. What a gift. But as always, you know, I'm sure I didn't touch on anything. Obviously, I'm really excited. I'm really joyful from hearing that news. I am not sitting there with my Dyna FXRT build being a hater at all. I'm more just really excited for these new bikes and to see people really get to put some miles on these bikes properly. And at the end of the day, I'm just excited to see that my riding philosophy and my riding style is really starting to spread and really starting to become noticed out there, which is to push yourself and your bike to go as fast and far as possible without sacrificing performance. But on that, like I said in the comments section, you all let me know what you think about this recent announcement. It was announced yesterday. Very rare is FXTLS Brooklyn hustling to get out content in a timely fashion like this, but this was just one I really wanted to hear what you all thought about. So go ahead, hit that old comment section. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I myself am going to enjoy my beautiful 27-degree winter ride out here on my 1988 FXR. whether you find yourself on a new bike or an old bike, make sure you get those miles. Get those miles in summer, get those miles in winter. Just get those miles. Stay safe, stay low, outride your demons, spread love. It is the Brooklyn way. And on that, FXGLS Brooklyn is out.